Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This Matt.
This Jesse.
And per the usual, go ahead and find us on It Tastes Like Burning Cast on YouTube. That's where you can find a lot of our newer and older stuff being released at a hot and riveting every fortnight. And if you ever feel like shooting us a question, and oddly enough, I know there's people listening.
Yeah.
So you could try and shoot us a question at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. I think I screwed that up.
No, you're fine. So I know there's a ton of guys out there listening because we oddly enough have interacted personally with a bunch of them in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll go into that a little bit more here in a minute. But what I'm going to ask everybody to do is go out there and recruit us some more listeners.
Yeah.
Like, just pop it out on your socials. We blast stuff all the time. Share it, not just like it. Share
Jesse
it.
does. I don't. I'm terrible.
But we're in that kind of middle of the ground level. Oh my God, that was loud.
Ignore me.
Yeah, we're in that middle of the ground spot where we could definitely use some more subscribers, followers, a little more interaction on the social media, kind of get us over a little hump that we're in. So we do have a guest today.
Yeah, it's a prodigal son, wayward child. I don't want to say sheep lost in the woods because
he's been busy.
There's that. It's a blast from the past. Our rising star and soon-to-be chief.
I don't think so.
Diego.
Yeah. Diego.
Not so distant past.
Way back in the beginning of the podcast, we had Diego on and we talked about paramedicine and a few things like that. But he's been off into the world of starting a career in a fire department, and he's back with us now, ready to pick up where he left off and journey on through being part of our department. So,
and pissing off his wife.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. So just a short update. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. If anybody had listened in the previous podcast, obviously I went from, well, not obviously, but since the previous podcast, I went from private EMS to a fire department who also runs EMS just recently. And it's been a blast. I really can't. I don't have anything negative to say about it.
For any hesitating souls out there that perhaps were like yourself, a wandering stranger with the paramedic, and finally made the commitment to the honestly better pay, benefits, scheduling, on and on. How do you feel about that decision to go strictly from an EMS side to a fire and EMS side?
I would say going to fire EMS is it's one of the best decisions that I could have made personally.
But why?
Just the culture.
Okay.
One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get away from private EMS, and it may not be the case everywhere, but where I came from just tended to be, if you were a paramedic there, you were going to stay a paramedic for anywhere between 5 to 10 years until whoever was in the captain role, which is your only promotable opportunity, decided to retire or relinquish their position.
Our run screaming into the night, right?
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I decided to pursue a fire department, was for promotion opportunities, just because it's very easy to become stagnant at a private EMS company. And through my experiences with the fire department that I'm at now, I've noticed I've interacted with a few other private EMS companies, some of the bigger ones like AMR and CareFlight, and they seem to be the same way. Not so much so as the small county department that I used to serve at, but it's still the same case.
Well, I've made this statement a ton, and I don't think we've actually specifically ever talked about this, but the classic pre-COVID private EMS model was shattered post-COVID. And there's no pushing the kitten back into the cat on that. And I don't know how private EMS is going to be able to survive post-COVID with the combination of, at least in our area, kind of at least a macro level, where the fire departments are starting to pay so much money to the paramedics and firefighters that it's you can't even consider private EMS anymore because the pay scale's so different.
All right. So back into the we've been all around the world in the last 2 weeks thing. Yeah, we've been around the world in the last 2 weeks. In case anybody missed it, there was a live stream that we posted last week. Yeah, Saturday is when it happened. Got reposted as audio only on Sunday evening, I believe. But if you missed that, that was from the State Firemen and Fire Marshals Conference and Convention. Go back and pay attention to that. That was a really awesome event, awesome conversation that gets to the heart of what we talk about here a lot, and kind of culmination of a couple years of me and Matt just kind of beating the drum over here, and guys like Diego that we've been holding up as an example, right? This is a good dude that's doing good things, and he's gonna go make his career. He's gonna come back to us. This is just proof in the pudding, and
right. Well, it's something that we're touting as our organization, taking young men and women and giving them, quite frankly, just a direction and the ability to have contacts and just say, hey, go grab those scissors and start running off into the night. And shockingly, they managed to land every single time. And kind of compounding off of that, this weekend was the TEEX, Texas Engineering Extension Services Municipal School, down at College Station. And oddly enough, I bounced into Greg Atkinson, Chief of Divine, bounced into Stephen Sullivan, Chief of Robinson, and also happened to hit a handful of other people that we had met at SFFMA the previous week. And shockingly enough, the departments that are out there networking and talking and eager and willing to learn, they're starting to find traction. There was a department on the north side of, that's not a pug in front of the camera or in front of the microphone. It's Jesse. He's got allergies today.
Yeah, I used a little nose spray.
Be careful. You'll get into that shit.
But stumbled into another department that's just a wee bit north of us, just a hair, about 8 hours. And I had fun talking to that chief. I won't say the department or his name yet. Oh, I did ask him if he wanted to be on the podcast. He said yes.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I want to grab him because we haven't had direct contact with him, and he's fighting the good fight. And if I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if I remember, in the last year, he's put 15 people on his department and lost 4. And this is a department of 30 people, 35 people. So
yeah, that's growth. And that's
2/3 growth.
2/3 growth. Probably, and if I was just guessing, and this is guessing, probably the ones he lost because they weren't open to change and growth.
Possibly. And I think and maybe it was just his background check or his application process, or, they got on and they just weren't a good fit for the organization, or vice versa. The organization wasn't a good fit for them. But yeah, I look forward to reaching out to Chief there, and we'll get something organized with him and get him on here because he's got a unique perspective. And I mean, we're talking about the definition of rule. This is rule.
Yeah.
Then the other part of this is, and I do hope to do a podcast with this group that comes in next week. I met this chief at TDEM, Texas Department of Emergency Management. And
incidentally, those guys are real busy this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're recording this on Sunday. The tropical storm hurricane is going to make landfall, I guess, tonight or in the morning.
Yeah, it'll be around midnight.
Yeah, so those guys are real busy.
Yeah. But these guys that I talked to, it's about a month ago now, saw him at Teeks, and I've been exchanging emails and phone calls with this chief. And yeah, he's been, he's coming up here after Teeks. He's going to do a week of training with his guys at the Teeks Muni School, and then they're coming up here for another weekend of glutton and punishment. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then after all of this, we're going to have a short break, and then we're going where?
Louisiana.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
We'll bounce over there to the, oh my God, what is the name of it? The Louisiana
State Firefighters Association.
Okay.
So coming out of the State Firemen Fire Marshals Association of Texas convention and deal, there was some folks there from Louisiana that were just there to gain ideas and stuff. And boy, they latched onto us and said, you guys are coming. And we're like, I guess we're going to Louisiana. There's got to be food. So that's kind of my only requirement because I absolutely love Cajun food. And they said there'll be plenty of that. So I'm in.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
And while I'm thinking about it, Diego, what are you doing next weekend?
It's my brother's birthday,
Uh-huh.
actually.
Damn it. Okay.
You don't
One of
want
the local departments also has a fundraiser event.
there is?
I do plan on hauling them over to that.
Okay.
We're gonna do our thing Friday night. We're probably gonna burn Saturday morning, and then I'm thinking we'll go over there for lunch. Spend a few hours over there, and it's just the timing of this couldn't be any better because the whole purpose of this is networking and communicating and organizing and working with each other. And yeah, I can't imagine anything better than taking a group out of extreme deep West Texas to a fish fry in a county and in a city they sure as hell have never been to before.
And the chief of that department, he's expecting me to be there.
Is he?
For sure.
Why?
Yeah.
Well,
Why is
I
that?
didn't imagine.
No, I couldn't happen to tell you why.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird.
We're close.
Closely related or just close?
Potentially.
Maybe.
Well, when you before you go help Chief over there, you want to burn some flash over Saturday morning?
I'd love to. Actually, I get off Friday morning. My relief should be there around 7. 45-minute drive home. So
Well, and that evening, you might grab your significant other because we're probably going to head out here locally with that group.
okay.
So, what I would like to do is, like I said, I'd like for us to go over there to the Wings place, have dinner there, because them guys will probably be tired after everything they've done for the week.
Yeah.
So just have
Give
a
them
night,
a little break.
give them a little break, come over here after that, do a little podcast, and then Saturday, not too early, nothing stupid, but meet around, I don't know, 8:30, 9:30, and just do some real simple evolutions up there. Nothing hardcore, going through it once, twice. It's going to be a relatively small group, so.
Saturday morning. you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, pretty early Saturday morning. But do a little flashover, maybe do some burn house stuff.
Yeah.
Just some generalized stuff and just get those guys kind of a little training that they're not going to get elsewhere, right? and that's the goals. Give them something that they're not going to go get.
So I was
Anywhere
talking to
else.
this chief, and I asked him, I'm like, man, because you really, I mean, they literally are. We make the joke, God's country. Yeah, it's God's country. Like, there's nothing else out there remotely close to them. And I said, where in the hell are you guys doing training at? He's like, well, if we want anything, we have to go to El Paso. And I'm like, how long of a drive is that? He's like, it's 3.5 hours. And I'm like, holy God.
Yeah.
And it's like,
They're on the road anyway. They might as well take advantage of the offer. I am going to reach out to a couple local guys. I know that there's a local department in the Metroplex looking to send a couple of rookies into the flashover, so I might invite them over to come burn with us. And they're super eager, and there's probably only 3 of them.
yeah, so it'll be good. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is the point of this.
Yes.
Is literally that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, other than meeting Stephen Robinson,
Steven Sullivan from
Robinson, Greg Atkinson with Divine, Chief Becker, of course, we know him local, handful of other people that we've talked about. Like, this is the purpose, is this.
Yes.
And just so people put this into perspective, God forbid if you're in Europe, Texas, it's a real small state. This department's going to travel almost 7.5 hours one way to work with us. And it's not because we're Star Spangled Awesome. It has nothing to do with that. It's just simply because I talked to him and said, hey, I know this is impossible for you, but if you're interested, we'd be more than happy to work with you and train with you.
Yeah.
And they're like, really?
Just the invitation.
Yeah, we'll take you up on that.
Yeah. So, oddly enough, and you talk about Greg has a podcast. It's called Rhythm and Rescue. I know he's on Facebook. He's doing it on Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives, and I don't know where else he's got it at. I subscribed on YouTube. Oddly enough, he needed about 7 subscribers to get to the point where he could do a live stream. So I have access or control to about 5 YouTube accounts. So I made up 5 of the 7 subscribers that he needed. But he's a good dude. And even though his podcast is not all fire, it's music and fire and just general discussion in life in general. Good dude, saying important stuff, got an awesome outlook on things. Just really embraced just kind of the whole thing in growth and development. Like, the things he's doing out there in Divine are just off the charts awesome. He has harnessed TikTok to the fullest ability of harnessing TikTok for the growth and development of a fire department.
And just so everyone understands, in case you haven't met him or come across it on your side, he has learned how to do it, but he's not the one that was the core of that or figuring out. He took a very brave step. What was?
Yeah, he allowed his juniors to get after it, right? Like, there was some guidance there, and I know Greg didn't just say, whatever you do is fine. He was like, show me what you're going to do, and let's work on this. But yeah, he's got high school students that are running these accounts that are producing content that's pretty amazing. It's hokey and it's corny sometimes, and he did make the Hefty Facebook page the other day, so whatever. If anything should make the Hefty Facebook page, it should be the junior members TikTok post, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's one person that's going to make the Hefty page, it's going to be your junior members.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, it.
And honestly, half the time they deserve it.
Yes.
And they should understand.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think he embraced the whole, hey, they at least got some more notoriety to their program, right? And he's doing awesome things down there in Divine. It's the office of the Divine Fire Chief, and you can read into that whatever you want. The town is divine, but he may also be divine. We don't know for sure, but we do know Greg's an awesome dude. That's just, I mean, he's as on top of that game as you could be, I think.
We actually are sitting in the midst of a mean god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
And what are your thoughts on this, Diego?
I don't know if I fully understand what you're trying to put forward.
Well, I realize that you've been part of our organization for a little while. How would you feel of suddenly having the divine inspiration and ownership of trying to control our social media?
I think initially I'd feel honored. But being that I've matured a little bit in the past couple of years, I would then feel very, very stressed out.
And hesitant?
Very.
Any particular reason why?
I'm becoming out of touch.
Yeah.
Not because you saw somebody get burned to the ground on
No,
this. No,
absolutely
absolutely not. Because
Well,
that's ancient history.
as
right?
I've said, I've matured a little bit in the few years. Even since I've been on the podcast, I've matured. And if somebody's ever been burned for social media, their actions on social media, I don't think I'd do the same actions. I don't think I'd perform the same actions.
And I would argue that the actions that they performed were absolutely what you should have been doing on social media.
You think so?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll garner a couple likes, but then you'll end up on Hifty.
I don't see that as necessarily an awful thing, right? Because it's all about just reach, right?
Right. I get it. Now this soundbite is going to end up on Hifty. That one.
Yeah.
So be it. Let's make our steak. It tastes like burning podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think ending up on the Hifty website for something that's tongue in cheek, or on the Hifty page on Facebook, that's something that's tongue in cheek anyway. That's not meant to be it's a
right.
satire type thing. I don't think that has any relevance to the guys that are literally running around the house, not doing anything but just running around the house, or
Throwing a ladder 18 times.
yeah,
Trying to get it up.
and that type of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
these two things are not the same.
So what's the
I agree.
difference between Hifty and freelancing aggressively?
Yeah. So that's awesome. Actually, I would argue that Hifty's better
Grandpa's calling. I'm out of here.
than freelancing aggressively. Oh my God, I can't believe that I found this. So we had a lot of people in and out of our station on the 4th of July, because we're kind of the base of operations for the parade in town, and we got left with a trinket of a skeletal fireman carrying a ladder and a pike pole that said "freelance aggressively," and obviously that is not our mantra.
Jesse was not impressed by that. I saw it for the retardation that it was, and Jesse saw it for the retard that it came from, and
It was signed. Yeah. If that is your mantra,
oh,
man, I hope it was all just tongue in cheek, and I really feel like that's what it was, but it may not have been, right?
So, like you say, there are times that we say things that are tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And perhaps that this person that left that piece of evidence around truly meant it tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
because he's been told in the past that he's a freelancer or whatever. Maybe that's the case.
Are you all right?
I had a hot dog for dinner. It was
Yeah.
a really big one.
And now it's having you for dinner.
It's having me. It's fighting back.
Yeah.
But to play the devil's advocate, I think that whenever you have people that are extremely into, air quotes, the job, you tend to have this ideology that isn't necessarily planned out or like thought out, if that makes any sense.
Are based in reality.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole freelance ideology, if you take it at base level, obviously that doesn't make any sense. We don't want to freelance. We definitely don't want to freelance aggressively. Now,
I would argue if you're going to freelance, at least freelance aggressively, right?
oh yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it, then you need to do it.
to go wholehearted. Yeah. It's just,
But I think if you were to take like an introspective look into what that person might mean by freelance aggressively, I think that truly what they mean to say is risk a lot to save a lot. Right? And you've heard that before.
yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty common saying in the
I've
fire
only
department.
said it about 10 million times
Right.
in my career.
Right. But the meaning gets lost whenever, instead of, because risk a lot to save a lot means it's pretty simple to all of us, right? If there's a lot to save, then there's a lot to risk. Freelance aggressively is completely different. But that person that believes in that has that propaganda, whatever, they may believe that.
It
has to be a joke.
It has to be a joke.
Yeah.
It has to be. There's no way.
But you can see where the connection might lie, right?
Well, they're young and impersonable, and
Right.
there's no way they're that stupid.
I was pretty stupid when I was a kid.
It's a joke. It's got to be.
There was a lot of artistic expression in said drawing. I mean,
Hey,
it was handcrafted.
I hate to take away from the firefighter podcast. You know, it tastes like burning, but I myself, as a mid-20s male, I had too much access to the internet.
Right. And it
That's
indelibly
what I'm saying.
hurt you.
Right. I'm still young enough that maybe some of the listeners can relate, and maybe some of the others can't. But what they call it currently is it's brain rot. It's called internet brain rot. Whatever faction you follow, whatever it may be, you know, TikTok brain rot, streamer brain rot, whatever. I think we may have a little bit of a, hefty brain rot going on.
Let's only hope you're right.
I don't know.
How long have we been rolling here?
Not long enough.
Not long enough.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, we got a lot more to talk about, I'm sure, but one of the things we need to bounce back to, and we talked about meeting all these people and doing all that, was just the positive feedback that we're getting, right?
Yeah.
And I've had so many people this last 2 weeks that have physically came and talked to me and said, guys, we appreciate what you're doing. You're spot on. You're nailing it on the head. And we, if you go back and watch that live stream on YouTube and you see the conversation that took place between basically 5 people, we traded a Greg for a Greg in the middle there. And the first Greg was, that Greg is he's a smart dude, right? He's a real smart dude. He's in touch with a lot of firemen across the United States.
Well, I hope he's smart, because he's in charge of a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
That's really important at how it's allocated.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm kidding. Obviously, your program's vital.
Yeah.
And I truly hope more people take advantage of your leadership and development. I did.
Yeah.
And your other grant programs that you have out there that's strictly dedicated to the volunteer fire service.
Yeah. He's doing good things. He's doing what we call the Lord's work, right?
Yeah.
And but through that, he's like in 17 states. So he's not isolated to Texas as much as we are. He's not isolated to one location. He's not just seeing what one area is doing to grow and thrive and survive. He's seeing things throughout the country that interesting perspective, right? That whole panel was made up of people that had something to add to the conversation.
Right.
And all the way from me and Matt, who if you don't know where we stand on this, you're a fool because you haven't paid attention. But Chief Ron, right? Chief Ron is a unique perspective, unique location, unique story, and what he's doing is so far out of the norm for volunteer fire service, and just his ability to recruit and retain folks is so far beyond anything even we're doing.
Right. And operate out of the standard box.
Right.
And arguably was a pioneer on this. He had a 7 to 10-year head start on us and didn't even bat an eye, going so swiftly against the grain on what the standard mantra and recommendation was at the time. But he took advantage of the fact that he saw a problem and realized that he had to address it.
Yeah, and just having a little bit of foresight and leadership, right? That's all it is. And he's a leader. I mean, in his professional career before he ever became a fireman and basically inherited a volunteer fire department, that's what happened to him.
Right.
He was a leader. I mean, he ran big things, he did big things. He was a leader amongst men. And
well, hell, and now he's the town mayor.
yeah. So I hate to say natural leadership ability because it's not natural, right? No, it's something that you cultivate and you as an individual do because you see a need or whatever.
If I was to call any of it natural, I'd call it natural problem solving.
Right.
They have an aptitude for solving problems and not being afraid to take whatever route is necessary to solve the problem.
And it's so much more than just solving the problems you have today. It's about solving the problems you're going to have tomorrow.
Well, and arguably that's the effective leadership part, because it's not reactionary, it's proactive.
Yeah. And I think he epitomizes just that leadership role. And right. I think Chief Sullivan down in Robertson, I think he had enough foresight, and even before he was chief, he was doing the things and shaping the department's future as his role. I think he came out of being the assistant chief into the chief role, but he was shaping the department's future and had vision about what to do to tackle problems. Right, he saw a problem and he tackled it, in a unique and productive way that was beneficial to a lot of people, not just the department and the citizens it served, but it was beneficial to the people that were filling the void of the membership that needed to be filled.
Right. And I mean the other thing, and I don't know enough about Chief Atkinson out of Divine. You might be able to answer this, but Chief Becker, he had quite frankly, he had a full corporate career life ahead of him when he finally retired and became a volunteer firefighter. CEO, CFO, COO of not small companies. Chief Sullivan, he definitely also had a professional background, even though younger than Chief Becker. He was graduated college and was already kind of working for lack of better words, his job's not politics, but it involves a lot of politics in it. and a lot of negotiating, a lot of talking, a lot of friendship building, bridge building. Um, and my background's pretty varied also.
Yeah,
And
as is mine.
yeah, and I think that's the one unique thing for being volunteer that would classically hinder a career department, whereas everything is very compartmentalized and very set on a rail. Whereas volunteer, some of the best volunteer fire chiefs I know don't have a fire background at all. They have this side job where they are also a firefighter and have done 5,000 different things with these organizations that they're a part of. But that's not their main backgrounds, the fire service.
You know, I know Greg was in media and he did some radio, and so he had a communications background, and he was in the Army.
That's why he's so good on the stupid podcast, because that's the first time that I had met him and talked to him, and it was just like, oh, you're so good at this.
Yeah, he was in the Army, and he was communications in the Army, so he has a background in communications, which arguably lends itself to what he's doing, right? He's trying to grow and be a little bit better than what the department was.
Well,
right?
that's a common line between all of us then.
Yeah.
Not necessarily directly communications, but all of us have a background that is directly linked to effective communication.
Yeah. So I think that not being just locked into the fire, and I think that the struggles that the career departments are having with recruiting and retention and finding enough applicants to fill positions, because that's a thing, guys. Like, it's not a volunteer only problem. This is a firefighting problem, right? And
oh yeah, no. I've been making this statement for 4 years. You notice that volunteers nationwide are having a hard time recruiting. You notice that paid departments nationwide are having a hard time recruiting. You notice combination departments nationwide are having a hard time recruiting. There's only one type of fire service that's not having a hard time recruiting. That's the private fire brigades at the industrial and petrochemical level.
yeah, because they're getting extra time off and bonus pay and whatever for doing it, and they're there anyway. But and I hate to simplify it down to that, but that's a lot of what that is. But the chiefs that are kind of stepping out on a limb a little bit, even in the career world, and that are doing some stuff, they still don't have the latitude to do some of the things we're doing. They're never going to get that option to have continuous open enrollment, right? That's one of the things that we have. We take people every month, whereas there's still that once or twice a year to have an application process and go through the process, and their process is so laid out and dictated, where ours can be 24/7, 365. One of the stupidest things that I've noticed just in the last 6 months of being assistant chief and being kind of over recruiting and retention and marketing and some of those things is that probably 75% of the applications we receive online are between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
What do you think the cause of that, Diego?
I think that has a lot to do with, when people are free.
That's part of it.
10 p.m., 6 a.m., you're on Facebook, and you guys do a great job of, marketing yourselves. I've even been to the local movie theater. You see a 7 o'clock showing, and one of the first ads you see is join our local fire department. You want to make a difference, sign up. So if you get out of that you get out of that showing, and you truly do want to make a difference, that's one of the first things on your mind, right? So
I think
along
that
with-
in a combination of liquid courage,
Yeah, probably.
for sure.
because at face value, this would be a truly great survey that like NVFC needs to do, but it needs to be to non-firefighters. What do you think what do you think your volunteer fire department looks like? Who are they? What makes them up? And you need to ask non-firefighters this question. And you're going to get, I guarantee, a whole bunch of old white dudes.
Yeah.
That's going to be the synopsis of it.
Yeah.
But
And
if you were to truly break it down, knowing what a volunteer fire department consists of, what do you think the actual breakdown is?
ooh. Okay, I'll try and take a stab at this. I can only really use my department as the example.
I think I'll say that I think that our local department's kind of an outlier.
I would argue it is, but there's certain things that are commonality. It's white, it's blue collar.
For sure.
Okay. There's only, let me think. 1, 2, 3. God, there's got to be more than 3 of us with a degree. And I'm not saying
Oh,
that's a measure. It's just
There's probably 24. Yeah, there's probably 24.
here's my point. College education isn't a majority of the department.
Correct.
That said, we have on the blue collar side some highly, highly skilled people in their work that they do.
For sure.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's classic blue collar work, you know, concrete, bricklayer, carpenter. Because we have some pretty successful people on this organization that have never set foot in a college classroom.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. A lot of entrepreneurs. Quite frankly, we have a lot of young people on the department. Part of the reason that our average age is so high is that the people that are older are old.
Yeah.
And we don't have a ton of middle-aged. We really don't. I mean, what do you call middle-aged? I mean, if you do 40 to 55, I don't know if there's 10
Yeah,
on the
probably.
department.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us. I fall in that group.
Yeah,
So.
maybe less. So I think at the end of the day, let me get readjusted here. I think at the end of the day, I would put, it's at least half of the departments under the age of,
30.
let's go 35.
Yeah.
And they've either started their career or they're scratching at the start of their career, or they don't have a damn clue and they're just working a pointless job trying to figure it out. And that's half. Of the people over 35, better yet, let's go the other way. The people under 35 that have a college degree, I can't think of any.
Yeah, there's a handful.
Is there?
Yeah, no. There's a handful. Some are associates, some are bachelors, but yeah, there's
Okay.
a handful.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think that if you went to any other, I always hate using this word because particularly in Texas, everyone gets prickly when you say progressive. But if you checked out any other remotely progressive department, I think you're going to see that they're full of a whole bunch of young adults, young middle-aged adults, and I think you're going to see that they are short on the old and experienced, which can be negative.
No, I think you got to
we've
have a
talked about
balance.
that.
I think you have to have a balance of all those perspectives to truly be uh, to truly be effective, right? It's
Well, I mean, just to dive down the rabbit hole, let's just think of the most recent people that we voted on the department. Was it 4 or 5 or 6? So
We had-
terrible. I don't
we
know.
had 5 this month
Okay,
and 6 if you count Diego here that's coming back.
so
That's
let's
the upcoming month. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
let's start with the 2 ladies we voted on. One of them's young, and she's just kind of getting started in life and getting life figured out. And the other one is
Middle age.
yeah, middle-aged, retired from the military, and I don't know what in the hell her book signing was, but she had a book signing. So
Yeah, no, she's a published author. She runs a nonprofit. Her and her husband have a business. Like, she's a successful middle-aged entrepreneurial.
entrepreneur, business lady, like, yes.
Yeah.
And then let's go to the other 3, the 3 guys. One of them's a young man. He's working. He's got to be in his early 20s.
Yeah.
The other one, same thing, young man working, just trying to get his start in life.
And the other one, I would put him in mid-30s, in kind of middle management in a pretty large company.
that was at a former VFD that went combo. And,
No.
And ultimately phased out there.
No. That was the month before.
That guy was a month before.
So in the past 2 months, we average 4 to 5 a month, right? It's what we've been averaging for the past probably 4 months. So if you take that to what it is, and some of them, there's a couple that were gung ho and came in, and you make it past the background, and you're not a complete blithering idiot. We're giving you a shot, right? There's a couple of them I haven't seen since the night they got voted on, and we probably won't see them, right? They misjudged the amount of commitment that it was, or just bad timing, or
one of
whatever.
the worst things about joining our organization is it's like being the damn new kid in the 6th grade. Your first month and a half here sucks because you don't know anyone. And on the flip side of that, everyone else is such damn good friends that you're the outcast. And short of being in a very aggressive type A personality, you're going to have a hard time elbowing your way in.
I'll even say, as somebody who has previously been on the department for a number of years, I spent July, and if anybody is a listener of the podcast regularly and has heard me before, I've been a member of the department for a while. I've had some years, but I stopped by on July 4th just because it's, on the parade route. And even then, having a number of years on the department, I stopped by as a quote unquote non-member. It was a little intimidating. There's so many new people.
Right.
I'm just standing there like, dude, hey, listen, I promise I've been around. I swear. But even then, you still have to prove yourself. So
Yeah, you got to go over there and point to the plaque where your name's on the plaque, right?
Hey, check it out, 2017. That's all I gotta say, right?
Yeah, it really is. And our organization has a problem with this.
But for a newcomer, I can see where that would be even more daunting, right? Because like I said, even as somebody that has been around the department, it was a little bit of not a struggle, but it was
a little shock, right?
Right. It's like, come on, guys. You know me. But they don't. And as somebody new, I could see where that would be daunting for sure.
Yeah. And the rate at which they're they're brought in, they're trained, and they're acclimated, right? So within that first 6 months, those guys are going from zero to like fully trained firefighter, right?
Right.
They're not just this wet behind the ears, know nothing person at that 6 month period when they're coming off for probation, which when you started, yeah, you got some training up until that point, and you were not just a complete idiot and a danger to yourself and others, but you weren't, there was no certification there.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was a teenager coming off the street and then trained for a couple weeks to know just about enough to not get myself killed. Right.
Yeah. And now in that 6 months, we're getting them through basically a full firefighter 2 with hazmat.
Right. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I was actually talking to, I don't know if the podcast listeners are familiar, but with Diego Squared. I was just talking to Diego recently about maybe joining in on some rookie schools
Yes.
to help out.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for sure.
That's a huge part of what this department does, not just for our department, but for the area, right?
Yeah. The entire county.
And beyond. And just to leave your kind of indelible imprint on those folks that are coming from outside the county and other departments in the county, and you're shaping minds and helping forge people into better people, right? It's that steel sharpens steel thing, right? We're making, I make the comment every Saturday out there in rookie school, we're making firefighters today, right? But we're not just sharpening them, we're sharpening ourselves at that same time.
For sure. And I've always been a proponent of, man, if you want to learn something, get out there and teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is so true. Whether it's firefighting, EMS, just general personalization. If you want to learn somebody, excuse me. if you want to learn something, then teach it.
Yeah.
Cuz you're going to know real quick.
I'm going to correct one thing. If you want to know something, teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think you know it, teach it. Because they're find out how little you know right now.
Because the rookies or whoever they may be, they're going to come up with some questions and you're going to be like, let me think about that real quick.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah,
I mean, and that's something awesome. That's another reason why, part of the reason why I came back to the department is because, you know, if you're paid or whatever, you're not going to be there unless you're paid. Right. And overtime's kind of dried up. So the training opportunities that I have had have kind of been minimalized. Seriously. Just to give a little insight on exactly how little overtime is offered. We just got to July 4th, and obviously nobody wants to work July 4th. And the people that were mandatory had 0 hours of overtime in July. I mean, and I was about halfway up the list with 12 hours of overtime on the year. We mandatory the person with the lowest hours. So I'm halfway up the list with 12 hours. I mean, that's pretty crazy coming into July. So one of the biggest reasons why I decided to come back was that I just don't have the time at my paid department. They don't have the funds or necessarily the personnel to train me to the point that I'd like to be. Right?
Right. Well, and then the other factor on it is our call volume. Because you know that in a given amount of time, whether it be a week, a month, 6 months here, even picking and choosing what you want,
right,
you're going to get as much as you want.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can get the old fun meter topped off and be like, well, it's August. No fun in August.
Yeah.
And fade out.
And that was the biggest thing. Because, I mean, if you're on a 24/48 schedule, you're there every third day. And you're not catching a fire every third day. You know, you're not catching an extrication, a rescue every third day. But here, as a volunteer, you get every opportunity, every second of the week that you're off, you get the opportunity to catch whatever comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the wide variety of training we just have,
Right.
plus the rookie schools.
Exactly.
So,
And that's something that I truly do want to be involved in.
Yeah. Well,
not to only better myself, but to better the community.
and training has expanded so much from when you were here before. It's not just the couple 2 or 3 Thursday nights a month. It's not just going to a few schools a year. It's constant and it's always available. And the things that we're doing in conjunction with the local college, that, like, literally the sky's the limit. If you want to go do it, it's available for you. And from everything from flopping around with the fish to dingle dangling from a rope, you can do anything and everything that you want to do.
Right. Which is, it's not something that look, I'm not an avid Jesus, edit that one out. I'm not an avid listener of the podcast, but I don't know if Matt and Jesse advocate for our local fire department very much, but I can't recommend our local fire department enough for how much they have pushed me in my career to succeed. I mean, I can't imagine that my life would be what it is now without our local fire department, which is part of the reason why I've come back, you know, now that I have the time.
Yeah. And I think that goes right along with kind of mine and Matt's philosophy of we bring young men and women in, we give them training, we give them opportunities, we give them contacts,
guidance, direction.
We send them out into the world, and they come back to us. And you're the prime example of, you come back because even at the great departments you work for, and I know they're top notch. Those guys, that department is hands down one of the better departments to work for. And there's always limitations that sometimes we can get past some of those limitations and budget and training expenses and stuff, that we offer so much to our membership because we're not paying salaries that we can give them.
Well, and the big part of that is that VFDs can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's not your job.
Right.
I mean, it's different when it's not your career.
And it sounds crazy, but it's such a different animal. Like, whenever I get to work, there's certain things that are just off limits. You know,
right?
You are at work.
Make a good racist joke.
Hey, don't get me canceled here. But you know what I mean? You know, there is an HR, there is city council, right, etc. And at your VFD, I mean,
we don't make racist jokes here.
No, we don't. At least not while the podcast mic is on.
Right. It doesn't matter if no one heard.
No, but there's a little bit more structure that I think is
inhibiting.
Yeah, right. It's inhibiting. That you'll find in a VFD, you're just the most basic way to put it is that you're with your guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and to kind of compound that, you have, you know, just a crusty dinosaur chief or captain, or maybe you're bigger and you have a battalion chief on a VFD side. A volunteer, you have options if you have a consensus among the membership on solving that problem.
Right.
Whereas on a career department, you don't.
No, I mean, on a career department, the direction that your department leans is entirely up to your chief.
Mm-hmm.
And say however involved they are, city council, city manager, etc. But now, fortunately for
and budgetary, right?
Sure.
Because
right.
They're not going out to raise money. They can't do that.
No, of course not. Now, I'm lucky enough to work in a city that has a very active union, and our city manager is very incorporated with our union. He truly does appreciate what the union has to say. But there's cities out there that aren't
Right.
so.
Well, yeah, just due east to use a big department that the struggle was real. So,
It depends on how far east you're talking about. I understand.
east and big.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's one of the unique things about volunteer is that it can be self-rectifying if the membership wants to fix it.
They have 100% power to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience. Now, some other volunteer departments may be incorporated differently, but from what I understand, most volunteer fire departments have it within their membership to rectify any situation that they need.
But I've also seen really, really small departments that have done this and swung so hard the other direction that you end up with someone in the chief's position. And I don't mean to hammer these people, but it's just true. I don't know if a 21-year-old is quite ready for the responsibility of that
Yeah.
position.
I agree.
Because the fact of the matter is that I don't know. It just, I have no problem with that 21-year-old being a captain or a lieutenant or being in charge of training. Like, I think that's awesome. But taking our organization and putting that 21-year-old as the organization exists right now as chief, ooh.
So what's the
They're gonna
solution
get
for those
destroyed.
departments?
That young man just needs to realize that they're perfectly fine, but they need to reach out for help. Whether it be someone inside their department or someone close to them that knows how they operate. It's not that they can't do it, but they need to get the chip off their shoulder and realize that you're going to have some really complex crap where you're going to really need a different perspective from someone that just has more life experience on how to handle that problem.
I guess the reason that I asked the question is because if a department is in the situation where they're nominating and or voting for a 21-year-old chief, it's because they don't have any other resources.
Right.
So what is the answer to that?
Go
but it could
take
be the
full
same thing.
advantage of Greg's classes.
It could be
Go
a
to a
30-year.
leadership class, and the biggest thing is don't pretend that you have the answers to everything. Use the people in your organization every opportunity that you have.
Right.
That's going to build you up because it shows that you're not being an obstinate ass. It shows that you're more than willing to consider other people's opinions, and realistically, you're going to get a much better group consensus on the political side so that you're making the best decision for the organization with the membership that you have.
So basically what I'm getting from what you're saying is if you are in the situation and if you are a 21-year-old chief listening to the podcast, listen. I understand that you've been nominated, but ask for help and understand that you need help and get it. Basically. Yeah. I mean,
and get it quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never held the position of anything. So that's part of the reason why I asked.
Horizontal.
I have held a horizontal position before. Jameson or otherwise.
Yeah.
I always tell people this, and I like to say it to particularly our newer members. The chief's not there to make the popular decision.
Oh, for sure.
You are there to make the right decision. And that can be really hard sometimes. I have been burned to the ground on this once. Lesson learned. And I have no plans ever of making that mistake again. And the right decision was obvious. but I made the best decision for a friend, and it burned me to the ground. And I should have been out, truthfully, and burned all my political stock in that. But realistically, I got lucky. It ended up correcting itself in the long run, and just admitted the mistake and ran with it. That'd be the one big self-learning thing here I'd recommend to anyone. If you screw up, and you will, just admit it.
Right.
There's no reason to hide it. Everyone knows you screwed up. It's fine. To screw up is human. To human is to screw up. Just run with it, learn from it, and try not torpedo your organization for your own pride. And that carries into career too.
For sure.
Because I've seen that too with plenty of career people. They had really good careers and made a really simple, stupid mistake. Instead of just falling on the sword, they denied it. They didn't hold to it. They, whatever, lied.
Potentially even stood too strong on their beliefs.
Yeah.
What is it now? July the 7th? Fort Worth Fire Department's chief is standing pretty hard from what I've heard on his beliefs. We'll see how that works out for him.
That's a really big, complex monster.
I've been thinking about saying something about it the whole time, but it's huge.
Yeah. And it's tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of a decision. I mean, more power to him is all I can say, because I get it to a certain extent. But that's why he's chief.
I don't think that's a popular opinion among firefighters.
Well, unfortunately for them, they're not chief.
We're going to make some social media here. We really are.
I have a sneaky feeling that the way Jesse's ferreting his eyes around, that he's not 100% sure what we're talking about.
I have no idea.
And we're not going to express opinions on this, because this is how you have white powder mailed to your house.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Like, the apartment complex is about to get dusted if I truly bring this open.
but that's, I mean, Fort Worth's a giant career department, but I've seen really, really, really small VFDs take positions on stuff like this and create their own, I mean, Nagasaki, Hiroshima disaster.
Yeah.
And it becomes this all-consuming monster. And it is. I mean, I'm trying to think of like a really good analogy to reference it to, where they take this little organization, they're this tiny thing, and a stance is taken, and they dig in, and it destroys the organization. The worst part about that is that how long doesn't matter who wins, because the damage is so thorough and fracturing that it just shatters the organization.
I mean, like you said, Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Yeah.
None of it truly mattered. The aggressor versus the defender. It was complete fucking devastation.
Yeah. A thorough.
Regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly didn't matter which way or the other. The land was flattened.
Yeah. And irradiated and then salted. So.
But at least continuing generations were affected.
Right. And I've seen that on the volunteer side. We have a really good example of that right now happening near us in our county. And those are treacherous waters. You got to be careful with it, because it's you got to be careful what hill you're willing to actually die on.
So before we wrap up, I just want to plug the Louisiana State Firemen's Association, LSFMA or FA, LSFA, asking us to come be a part of their convention and conference.
Yeah, I attended one of their webinar trainings. It was fantastic. They had Chief, shame on me. I can't remember. Chief Cochran, I think, out of Atlanta.
Georgia. Yeah, out of Georgia.
He was a fantastic guest speaker.
And we're going to do a little different format. If any of you are familiar with the Change My Mind deal, I think we're gonna set up a table and do a Change My Mind, and we may have a couple of different topics there to kind of choose from. But the gist of it is we're gonna sit in the crowd basically.
Yeah,
with
take random polling questions,
random polarized questions, and just have some discussions, and we'll record those. We'll piece them together and we'll dump them as an episode. But definitely be a little different than what we've done in the past, but should be fun, and hopefully we get some interaction there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be saucy.
Yeah, it should be good. And if any of you are following us on Facebook and realize that I screwed up Facebook and it's the wrong kind of account, and we don't care. We're fine. We don't care.
Yeah.
When we hit the limit of friends, we'll deal with it then, but we're still under that in the numbers, so it's not a big deal. But I did post the trinket that we were talking about earlier. So if you're truly curious about seeing that, it's on the Facebook.
Sweet.
It's sparred some conversation already on there. So and that always good. And realize that it's just kind of nuts, right? Crazy world we live in, the crazy things we get to do, the amount of interaction we get to have with good, solid, awesome people that build us up and make us better.
Yeah, and just helping to contribute to each other and the community. It's weird, it's awesome, and it's refreshing to find other people that are like, man, I want to do X, Y, and Z at my organization. And they just go do it. And they realize that other people are doing it too. And then they start talking to each other, and it's cool.
Yeah. And for a couple guys that have been sitting here and bloviating into a microphone for 2 years now, over 2 years. March was 2 years. And to actually get some really solid, good, honest feedback and some examples of success that's inspiring to us to continue on and to continue to do what we're doing and work harder at what we're doing to bring more content and more value to listening to our podcast.
NVFC, you're next.
Yeah, we're coming for you. You better get ready. Yeah, we base a lot on the what are the solutions and being positive, and I think there's a lot to be said in that space.
Yeah. All right. Last podcast notes. If you ever feel like shooting us a question, find us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can always find episodes current and or previous on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning. I do recommend adding podcast in there. You can always find us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And this is Diego.
Have a good evening.